Hey, what's up? Thanks for coming. We're going to talk today about who owns heaven. And you got to know who owns heaven. You probably never asked that question in your head before. You got to know it though, because if we understand how that works, we understand what heaven is and how you get there, or how you become a part of it. We have to understand, what does it mean to own heaven in the first place? You might think that heaven is like this happy, great place where everyone's in sort of community together and they care about each other. It'd probably be some kind of communal, like we all own it together. I mean, we're all, but no. Actually, just one person owns the entire thing, and that person is God. Here we have Swedenborg just given a few points in a row about the nature of the ownership of heaven. And you'll see, like, at first glance, it's kind of top down. So what's going on with that? This is from Secrets of Heaven 1614. And here we're talking about the land. Anytime you hear in the Bible, it says the land. It's always talking about land. I'm going to give you this land. Go out into that land. The land is this. That land is heaven. The land that's promised you is heaven. So we're talking about the land. There's a part in the Bible where he says, I'm going to give you this land. Certain points have demonstrated many times show that the land, or the kingdom of heaven, is the Lord's alone. I own 0 shares of heaven. Specifically, that no one else is the Lord of heaven. And since he is the Lord of heaven, he is also Lord of the church. The church is just heaven as it exists with people who are still living in the world. So they're the same thing, but in different locations. Okay, but either way, Lord's part and parcel of all of these things. Is that what part and parcel means? He's the all in all of those things. It can also be seen from the fact that everything heavenly or spiritual, which means everything good or true, so all impulses to do what's right and all correct beliefs, comes from the Lord alone, with the result that the Lord is, there it is, the all in all of his heaven. Not just that God runs the place, but everything good and true in there, everything that moves human beings to act in a heavenly way, that's coming from God as well. So God is really pulling his weight here. So much so that anyone who fails to see goodness and truth as coming from the Lord ceases to be in heaven. Such is the prevailing atmosphere throughout heaven. Such is the soul of heaven as well. And such is the life force that flows into everyone who cultivates goodness. That last one is a question mark, because couldn't you cultivate goodness without the Lord being involved, or without an acknowledgement of the Lord being involved? So how is it that the place where the Lord is in charge of everything is the life force that flows into anyone who cultivates goodness? Let's put a pin in that. Let's put a little pin in that. If you don't understand that God is the source of everything good and true, you're no longer in heaven. There's a particular condition that is called heaven. And this is the happiest condition that exists. It is the greatest peace, joy, prosperity that a human can be in, is in this thing called heaven. There's other joy in existence. There's plenty of things you can enjoy when you're living your life in the world that are not of heaven. There's the entire hells, which is all like we're going to go after enjoyments that are specifically not heaven. You don't have to do heaven. As soon as you don't realize that God is the source of everything good, or somewhere else. You can maybe be on the very periphery of heaven, but you're not in the heaven experience. So God owns this. But, so if that seems a little bit top heavy, one thing I'll say about heaven is that it's not actually like this, where there's a certain amount of reality that's carved out, and God says, well, I've conquered this, and this is all mine. You guys want to cram in over here, you can. Heaven grows or shrinks depending on the number of people who have accepted it. Like, if nobody wanted to believe that everything good came from the Lord, and if nobody wanted to act on that and have that drive their life, there wouldn't have to be any heaven. So God is not saying, I am staking my claim to something that you can't have now. He's just saying, hey, you can go do anything you want, but if you want to be in heaven, it has to be under these conditions. So why couldn't it be that some of it's the Lord, but everybody else is a part of it? Why so focused on the Lord owns heaven? It's because you have to understand who God is. What we love makes us who we are. You might think that we're human beings because of our shape, because we have a head and arms and that kind of stuff. That is the outer features of us. What makes us who we are is what we love, and to a secondary extent what we believe, but primarily what we love, since that ultimately drives our beliefs. So we are what we love. And do you know what God is? Do you know who God is? The divine intent is the desire that everyone be most fully and profoundly happy forever. That's who and what God is. So, if we take that, understand that that's what the Lord is. The Lord is not somebody who's like sometimes in a good mood, sometimes a little cranky, so watch out. He's going to tax you now or something. God is not arbitrary. God is consistently driven by and is the desire to make everyone happy forever. That changes how this thing reads over here, and why it has to be that the Lord needs to be in charge, needs to be the all in all of heaven in order for heaven to be heaven, in order for it to be that joyful, collaborative place. So if we say the kingdom of heaven is the desire for all to be happies alone, specifically no one else than the desire for everyone to be most fully and profoundly happy forever, nothing else rules in heaven. When you're in the world, you can give sort of lip service, like, oh yeah, I like doing nice things for people, but what really drives me is my own reputation or my own comfort. That's fine, but that's not heaven. What rules in heaven is the desire that everyone be most fully and profoundly happy. That's what drives everything. That's what makes heaven heaven. Because when you don't have that in charge, you get people who are driven by their desire to dominate other people. You get people who are driven by superficial, harmful things. And you end up with a mess like the world that we've got here. It can also be seen from the fact that everything heavenly or spiritual comes from the desire that everyone should be happy forever alone. That's what the Lord is. Resulting that desire that everyone be happy forever is the all in all of heaven. That's what makes heaven heaven. And look, so much so that anyone who fails to see goodness and truth as coming from the Lord ceases to be in heaven. Well, if the Lord is the desire that everyone be happy, the desire not just that my group be happy, or that myself be happy, or the people who agree with me be happy, but that everybody be most fully and profoundly happy forever. If you're not seeing the things that you're doing now, if you divorce those from that greater mission to make everyone happy, even if you're doing something constructive, but it's ultimately pointed towards self or your own group or your own interests and away from everybody's equal and everybody deserves love, then you're doing something, but you're not doing heaven. Because heaven is the place where everybody lives saturated by the belief that everyone should be loved and sought after, and there should be the intent to make them as happy as they can possibly be forever. That's what heaven is. And if you understand that, it makes total sense that that could be the life force that flows into everyone who cultivates goodness. Even those of us who are maybe not in heaven yet, our will to participate in what heaven is, which is the desire to reach out to anyone. Doesn't matter if they're in hell, doesn't matter if they're world of spirits, wherever you might go, to reach out and help them, that desire comes from heaven. The difference is, in heaven, you understand the full picture. In heaven, you see that goodness that you want, that's inspiring you to want to reach out to everyone, is coming from the Lord. And the more you understand that, and the more you understand who the Lord is, the more you can tell, okay, well, this urge that I have here, it's kind of good, but it's not coming from this impulse to do good to everyone forever. So it's not heaven, so I won't do it. That is when you truly plug in and experience this thing called heaven, which there's only has to be as much heaven as we want there to be. If we all said we don't want to do that, it wouldn't have to be any heaven at all, even though that's what God wants for everyone, because that's the happiest state. Heaven is where God's in charge and everyone wants it to be that way. And everyone's working with God and looking toward God, who is, by the way, remember, the desire for everyone to be happy forever. So that's what runs heaven. And as soon as we start working from that, where we say, hey, I want that to be the number one thing in my life, and we understand that it comes from the Lord, who is love and truth itself, then heaven opens up. And it's actually not an oppressive place to be with God running it. It's the freest place that exists and the most joyful place that exists. So, I think that's pretty cool. And hopefully that gets you thinking a little differently about what it is that God owns heaven and what it means to be in heaven in the first place. Thanks for watching.